we're sort of coming to the end of quite an intense 2 days. And I don't want to bring a dark note in here in the afternoon, but this is what I have to say. The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Many of you know that. It's Audre Lorde, a well-known feminist and activist. But I'd like to translate that maybe into a contemporary setting and say, Zuckerberg's algorithms will not bring us freedom. In some way that we are always entrapped, in some ways. We have ways out of it, and that's what this afternoon's session is about. We have ways out of it. But it's maybe take a time to think about what that means. The session is called Sacred Activism, and I'd just like to translate that into maybe full spectrum activism. That's the way I'd like to reset what the session might be about. And I gave myself the glorious title of Sex and Spirit. Dear God, what was I thinking, right? Okay. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? I did that because I am one of the scariest things on the planet. I'm a radical feminist. Even scarier, I'm lesbian. Oh my God, I am a radical lesbian feminist. Now, can I just say that, Robert is the other radical, self-declared, self-identified feminist in the room, but I know you're out there. I want to just draw on that tradition. We have had amazing social change in this country. We are at a point of almost like enlightenment, and I keep, good Catholic girl that I am, in the background of my mind, I keep thinking, yes, we're in a new kind of saints and scholars translate that into whatever vocabulary you want to use, but I know you know what I mean, that there is amazing surge for freedom, for power, for articulation, and we have moved the source of action outside the institutions onto the streets. We have parallel means of communicating. We are not locked in silence, secrecy and shame anymore, and the power of young men and women acting against the outrageous history that we have is really, really empowering. However, good old radical feminist, there's always a problem somewhere. I want to use three little hooks just for this presentation. I want to use, if we want to have full spectrum activism, we need to use our heads, our hearts, and our hands. Without any one of those, the system will be unbalanced. It won't be totalitarian. We don't want a totalitarian response. We want a flexible, alert, soft, intelligent, and courageous response to the oppression of patriarchy. And that is why I call myself a radical feminist, and why I gave myself this title, Sex and Spirit. Because from the very beginning, when, our previous speaker said, there's various waves of feminism, and there's liberal, radical, socialist, whatever, modernist and postmodernist. And I just want, if you can bear with me, at the last leg of a very intense session, just let me get into the head a bit, because that's where I'm very happy as a philosopher. And what I want to talk about is the need for clarity, the need to be able to name what you are looking at with clarity. We are talking about domestic and sexual violence over the last 2 days, but we have already, from the very beginning, look at Davina's presentation. She's already saying that the overt, explicit acts are just the end. They're just the end. They are not the system that we live and breathe, that we make us feel who we are, that make us speak, respond to one another, regardless of our genital arrangements. Is this a whole system? And from the beginning, radical feminism identified, from the very beginning, radical feminism identified violence, sexuality, and spirituality as the domains and modes through which women could and would be enslaved and have been enslaved. They named the system feminism, become a feminist. Learn your own history. Use your intellect. Look at the vast and, contrarian, argumentative, Talmudic body of knowledge that is feminism. Philosophy, history, literature, sociology, politics, activism, life stories, art. Everything you want is there. Educate yourself. Educate yourself. That would be the first thing I'd say. What did some of those early waves of feminists say? They said we have a system of patriarchy, there's a system of sexism, and a system of misogyny. So it was looking at the big scale. And Rianne gave us a wonderful presentation looking at large-scale patterns. So we're looking at large-scale structural positions of power. And in that, you might as well say patriarchy is the opera house, sexism is the score, and misogyny is the character on the stage. That's what it means on such an evil tale. In contemporary environment, we are more postmodern. So as Kit said yesterday, we look for the gaps. What are we not representing? Who are we not speaking about? So we emphasize diversity over sameness. Absolutely necessary. And we are now in an age where sex, gender, and sexuality, where masculinities and femininities are being thrown up in the air, and we are allowed, through technologies, we can even change our bodies. And you can see the struggle in this domain to fight patriarchy, to resist toxic masculinities, to aspire to female empowerment. But I have a little warning. In every one, still continuously, there is these, and again, we talked about it yesterday, this system, several people have referred to it, this foundational thing of binaries. Dualisms set up all the time, inside, outside, top, down, right, left, white, black, male, female. And for me as a feminist philosopher, I cannot, and in my heart, I would give anything to be able to say it is just one among many. But for me, it is such a foundational set of categories. As Kit said yesterday, when we are born, we are sorted on the basis of our genital arrangements. And we know that bodies are diverse. They can be chromosomally differently, hormonally different, but we are sorted into male and female at birth. That is a system of master and slave from the very beginning. And I now call myself, I don't call myself a radical feminist anymore, well I do of course, but what I really call myself now, in the current terrain of the importance of, trying to consider the importance of all of this, I call myself an AFAB. I was assigned female at birth. And as a result of that assignation, my life was set out for me. If you are an AMAB, similarly, if you were assigned male at birth, you have the same burdens to bear. Not in the same way, I don't have to reiterate that here. It is a hierarchy, there are privileges, but it is toxic, all of it. So what I want to say is, as a radical feminist, gender is trauma. Gender is trauma. Patriarchy creates gender. We are sophisticated now enough in the 21st century with all our thinking and argumentation and so on to see that sex and gender aren't necessarily aligned, our sexualities are different, the range of masculinities and so on are all varied, and we can mix and match those almost, and I don't mean that in any trite way. But what I do want to say is this: continuingly, which is not a word, femaleness, womanliness, femininity continues to be abased. We eroticize abjection, where we are forced to fear the thing we are forced to love the thing we fear. We are forced to love the person we fear. That's the definition of abjection. And I don't want that. Finally, I would say on that note, that one of the most hidden and underground things that nobody wants to see or speak or let near is female masculinities. That's quite a terrifying thing. And I'd ask you to think about that. Right, heart. We need clarity. I've given you some indication of how I think about the systems. Heart, courage. I was 10 years old, and I remember very distinctly the language I used. It was probably about midnight. Yeah, the pub's closed at 11:30, so it was about midnight. I said, she's not worth it. She's not worth it. Don't bother, Asher. She'll only wreck your head. She's not worth it. You're only wasting your energy. I was talking to my father to talk him down from beating my mother. My father broke my leg when I was 18 months old, and I was in traction for several months. At 18 years of age, this is in the 70s, not giving away my age. At 18 years of age, I brought my father to court and had him removed from the house. And my mother came into the court and told the judge that I was lying. I have never spoken about this because, of course, I love analysis and I want clarity. And to appear as a victim or to appear as somebody who has been damaged or hurt by that, you carry a sense that it undermines your intellectual ability in some way. I know that is not the case, and certainly these last 2 days have shown that, and I thank Sharon and Katrina for setting it up in such a way. However, I want to say, teachers, guards, nurses, the guard that stood beside me and believed me at 18 years of age and brought me down to the bridewell where I stood in a room with pink walls and piss-smelling halls, stood beside me. The judge who dismissed my father out of hand when he stood there, my father was bewildered. He could not believe what was happening. This is the 1970s. He could not believe that the crimes that he had carried out with impunity had been put out in public. In public. And the judge dismissed him, barred him from the house, and my father was so overwhelmed with rage that he pursued me. I had to hide for several weeks, and he pursued me in front of the bridewell, and the guard actually had to physically protect me. I was 18. I'm the eldest daughter of 4 children in a severely alcoholic and dysfunctional family, riddled with addictions, riddled with talent, riddled with bravery, and the dark, dark humor that we all have, that black humor, where you learn to survive and continue and fight. I hate bullies. I hate bullies, and I will fight them and have fought them as best I can through my own means for as much of my life as I could manage it. I've also So, I want to say something. If gender is trauma, and many of us in this room are victims and survivors, arousal happens very easily. You know the hypervigilant state? I often think that one of the reasons why I'm as, heady as I am is that I'm just fucking hypervigilant all the time. That's all, I just can't turn the lights off. So arousal is there, high emotional response. Please put the lights on. Use your head. Use analysis as well as arousal and spot the system. My last point, because I have exactly 1 minute and 4 seconds to speak, is about my hands. Head, head, heart, hands. Hands, connection. Courage again. And the thing that I would say here is in our work, the work of our hands, one of the things, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the body for a minute, and that is, anybody who knows me I love dancing. Dance your buns off. Get out, party, and have fun. Make connections with people. And Mick, if you could put on the video, that would be great for me. This is how I conceive how we can act. The second video, sorry. I'm not very organized up here. Okay. So I'm on the hands now, and what I really want to talk about now is love and justice. Many of us in a traumatized state, in the face of patriarchy, in the face of systemic abuse, erasure, divide and conquer, and difference and sameness within a patriarchal system are two sides of the same coin. It is a method of separating us, divide and conquer. If we keep endlessly elaborating identities in such a way that we can make no connection with each other, we are, excuse me, fucked. And by that I mean forced, unlawful, carnal knowledge. That is what fuck means. It is the word for rape. Do not let ourselves be divided or conquered in this way. Keep stretching across differences. Keep watching, identifying commonalities and differences at the same time. And the final thing I will say now before, I have 48 seconds. This is, right, okay. The final thing I want to say, and this is about spirit and about sexuality and spirituality. Keep asking yourself, who tells you who reality is and who do you believe? Keep asking yourself, who is speaking? Who is being blamed? Who is benefiting? Ask yourself, who is doing the work? The unpaid, invisible work of entropy and inertia, the daily grind. Who is doing that work? And if you want love and justice, I would ask you yet again to avoid that binary. If you seek only a stereotypical kind of pink, fluffy love, love without justice goes to fantasy and escapism. If you seek only justice, that nice little scales with the blind woman, you will go to fanaticism. And we are lost if we take either route. Keep love and justice together. Thank you.